You're listening to an exclusive podcast of The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett. Heard every Sunday night from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. on Zoomer Radio, the new AM 740.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. I want you to get mad. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!" I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore! I'm not gonna take it anymore!
Live from Toronto, Canada, The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett from Zoomer Radio, AM 740.
No need to get mad. The best revenge, as a good friend of mine mentioned over breakfast the other day, is a life lived well. And they say, if you do it right, you only live once. If you do it right, that's more than enough. Although there is, of course, a sizable portion of the Earth's population that believes we get to go around again and again and again. Reincarnation. We'll be delving into that a little bit later. You may believe in reincarnation. You may be very skeptical, as I am. However, we're going to witness a past life regression live on the air in just a few moments. Let me just give you a glimpse into what's happening in this studio right now. In behind me, there's a little, I can't see it, there's no window, but in the studio, a little tiny announce studio directly behind me, there are two people right now. One of them is the affable, venerable, indefatigable host of Big Band Sunday Night, George Jonescu. And as we speak, he's being placed under hypnosis. We can't do it live on the air because for those of you driving around, well, I believe it's actually a CRTC regulation. You cannot perform hypnotism live on the air because it could affect people listening, and some of those people might be driving. Anyway, in the studio right now with George is Debbie Papadakis, the founder and director of the Canada-based Hypno Healing Institute. And this woman is remarkable. She's recognized the world over for her hypnosis training. She was featured in Oprah Winfrey's O magazine a couple of years back. And I introduced the two of them. George went down to her studio in Toronto on Keele and had kind of a pre-interview to find out whether he is a good candidate for regression. George expressed great interest in finding out whether or not he may have experienced a past life. And I got the word back that he is an exceptional candidate. And so we're going to try it live on the air in just a few moments. But first, she's doing the actual hypnosis part off the air. So when we come back from a break, which is upcoming, she'll usher George into the studio. I've set up a nice comfy chair. I brought a chair in from the boardroom and stuck that in the corner. And that's where George will sit because we want him to be comfortable when she takes him on this journey back in time, perhaps. We'll see what we get. It's live radio. We don't know. It could be a bust. Maybe George won't experience a past life. But I've seen enough of these things in person to know some remarkable things can happen. So that's upcoming. A little bit later in the show, towards the tail end, Nelson Thal, our media scientist, assassination researcher, is barreling down the 400 on his way from his place up north. He's going to be in studio to share some state secrets, including some never-before-heard information regarding the Costa Concordia disaster. Of course, the Italian yacht that tipped over off the coast of Tuscany back on Jan 13. And he has some very interesting take on what really happened with the Costa Concordia. And news bulletin. Nelson Thal will share details he has been made aware of by his he has some very impressive sources, some of whom he inherited from the late Marshall McLuhan. Marshall McLuhan was into the conspiracies, folks, if you didn't know that. Total believer in secret societies, controlling arts and culture and religion and so forth. So he was connected with the intelligence community. Nelson is likewise, and his source inside the CIA, FBI, and Secret Service has some very interesting information regarding Michael Jackson and whether or not he may have, in fact, pulled a fast one on the Grim Reaper. Maybe living in Bahrain. I know it sounds bizarre, but when you consider the source, I know who the source is. I can't name him. I would say probably impeccable. If you heard the name, you would know the name. That's as far as we're going with that. But anyway, Nelson Thal is going to be here, and he'll tell us all about Michael Jackson's new life in Bahrain and other things. Now, you hear some rumbling and some noises in the background. Debbie Papadakis, our Hypno Healing expert, has just brought in George Jonescu. He's sitting in the comfy chair opposite me, and she's just going to get him in a more relaxed state. David Gaskin, why don't you take us into a break? When we come back, we'll get into the past life regression of one George Jonescu. Don't you dare go away.
When you look at the sky, ever wonder if someone's looking back? This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett on Zoomer Radio, AM 740. To speak to Richard live, call 416-360-0740 or toll free in Ontario, 1-866-740-4740. Passcodes, personal identification numbers, social insurance numbers. If they make you wonder how private they are, here's two more numbers. 416-360-0740 or toll free in Ontario, 1-866-740-4740.
George, tell us where you are.
In a very lit, large theater, and we're toasting. I'm guessing we're toasting the play, and I'm not certain whether I wrote the play, but it seems everyone is focusing on me.
Just take up a deep breath, and I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to answer me really fast. Did you write the play? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. And just stay with the play. You know it's a play, okay? Just tell us a little bit about the play.
It is a love story that takes place during a battle. Mm-hmm. And its battle is terrible because there are mounted soldiers who are attacking peasants who don't have a way to defend themselves. Mm-hmm. It's a slaughter.
Okay, but I want you to stay in the play. This is a play, right? I want you to stay with the play for a moment. Yes. Take a couple of deep breaths to see that you're in the celebration right now. Can you tell us what year this is?
1754, 1755.
Let me just welcome people back to The Conspiracy Show. Debbie Papadakis in studio from the Hypno Healing Institute. Also in studio, special guest, George Jonescu, who is undergoing a past life regression. He's just related details. It sounds as if he's a playwright. A playwright, 1750s, and he's telling us the details of a play he's written which involves some sort of a horrific war. Where are we,
Where
Debbie?
are we, George? What is the...
We're in a theater in Venice. No, in Vienna.
Vienna.
Bright lights, crystal chandeliers, ladies beautifully dressed, and we're all toasting the play.
What
Yes.
are the colors of the walls there?
Gold and crimson.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of lace, lots of bows. with gold fringes. It's like an opera house.
Take a deep breath, George. And tell me, what is your name and that timing?
Randolph.
Randolph. Interesting. I'm typing some of this information in just to see.
Do you have any further information to tell us about that?
I keep coming to the point when these people, undefended people, are being killed, and I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, I could not have written that in the play. I don't think I could have ever written that in the play. Mm-hmm. No.
Just take a couple of deep breaths.
How old a gentleman is he?
How old are you there?
Mid-20s.
Mid-20s.
Yeah, I keep focusing on a very arrogant, pompous man in the royal box, and I don't like him. I hate him. And I don't know why.
You don't need to know why. Just look at him and...
He's arrogant.
He's arrogant. But do you realize behind arrogance is always fear? And
fear?
Behind arrogance is always...
He can't fear. He seems to be the emperor or the king.
I'm going to ask you to just relax for a moment. Take a couple of deep breaths. Tell me any other questions you have.
Tell us about Randolph's personal life. Is he married? Does he have children?
About your personal life. Are you married, children?
No. I'm dressed kind of like a fop, I guess. Very fancy with the frilly cuffs and the frilly collars, and it seemed to be what all of the gentlemen were wearing.
In the history books, this war that you describe is it in the history books, this war?
I don't know, but it's so vivid, and I keep seeing this child with the pleading eyes, and I'm trying to reach out, and I can't help. I'm
going to ask you to imagine you can reach that child. Just let's do a little healing there. Imagine you can reach that child and help that child. You can do that. Just imagine you can do it. And the child feels relieved.
The eyes are penetrating.
Yes.
I'm afraid to touch him.
Imagine by touching you can help him. Just imagine that. This is the way we do some of the healings, because when we send love and light.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't help you.
Yes. Great. Talk to him.
Forgive me. I think I need your forgiveness if I'm going to carry on.
Yes.
But why do you look right through me? I can't take it. I'm going to turn away.
Okay, turn away.
Yes.
And we're going to go to another time. Is there any more details you want from this?
Is there anything he can... where did he see this child?
Where do you see this child?
It's like he's a gargoyle on this end of where these people are being slaughtered.
Okay, I don't think we need to stay there then.
No. I'm going to ask him. I'm going to count from 1 to 3. We can do some I will do some healing afterwards with George and that.
Yes.
But right now, send some love and healing into the whole scene there. Imagine everybody is relieving that pain. The pain is going away from everybody. Just imagine that. Imagine you can communicate with everybody and send them love. And imagine this pain and hurt and all that's lifting. Take deep breaths.
I'm hurting.
Okay.
Can you send him to a happier place? Send him to a happier place?
I'm going to count from 1 to 3. At 3, you'll be another place that's more pleasurable in the same life later on or another life. 1, 2, 3. You are in another place, another time, another situation. There is a pleasurable event there.
There's music.
Tell us about this.
Oh, there's music and people are dancing in great circles. And they don't... They all sort of salute me as they come by, and I don't understand why Why?
I'm going to count from 1 to 3. You will have a total understanding why they're saluting you. 1, 2, 3. Tell us what.
My play was a success.
Yes.
And I guess these are my friends because they're very happy, and they've got goblets of wine, and they all, every time they come by, they raise their glass.
Tell me, what's the name of your play?
I can't for the life of me.
No, just take a couple.
It was a love story during.
I'm going to ask you to look at the book. Was it a book? Did you wrote it in a book?
Yes, it had a red cover.
Look at the cover of the book. And the title starts with, what's the first word?
C.
It's the first letter is C. The second.
C.
Read the whole thing. You can read it fast. 1, 2, 3.
Crowning.
Crowning.
Crowning. Crowning.
Crowning. That's the name of the play.
And is this the name of the play?
It has some more to it.
Okay, read more, please.
Glory.
Glory.
Crowning glory.
Yes.
That was the play.
Thank you. Is this this book exist today, George? Yes or no?
Yes.
And where can you find this book? And I want to ask you to another further time.
But it must be.
No, it must be. Just 1, 2, 3. Where is it existing?
The library in Vienna. The National or the Congressional Library in Vienna.
Interesting. Crowning glory. Okay, I'm looking that up. We'll see.
And we're going to look for that, and you're going to look perhaps later.
Yes,
after.
absolutely.
Yes, and this exists. There are people who found things like that. So just take a couple of deep breaths, and perhaps you go to another time where it's, by seeing the event, you will have a great benefits. By understanding it, seeing it, living it, you will have some great lessons learned from that, and you can benefit your current life. 1, 2, 3. You are there. Tell me where you are, George.
I'm in a very happy saloon. Yeah, and it is a huge bar. And they're spilling drinks and they're drinking drinks. And I'm not drinking.
And what is the lesson for you to learn from that? What are you learning from this experience?
That I don't drink.
That I don't drink.
Is he still in Vienna?
Are you? Tell us the place where you are.
Chicago.
Oh, this is a different life. Okay, listen, why don't we take a time out?
Yeah,
we just kind of hold him there in Chicago?
It's very busy.
Stay at the...
I'm going to count from... Actually, I'm going to ask you to pause for a moment. Richard's going to take pause, and then we'll come back, okay? Just look at the scenario, and then you describe it to us.
Okay.
So just look at that, and then you're going to tell us in details exactly what you see.
Okay, we're going to leave George Jonescu at a bar in Chicago, where he seems to be having a good time. We'll come back on the other side and continue to delve into the many lives of one George Jonescu right here on The Conspiracy Show, along with Debbie Papadakis. Stay with us.
Providing the evidence and letting you draw your own conclusions. This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett on Zoomer Radio, AM 740. The world is being pulled over your eyes. This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett from Zoomer Radio, AM 740. To reach Richard, call 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. George Jonescu undergoing a past life regression. Debbie Papadakis in studio from the Hypno Healing Institute in Toronto. And if this, believe me, this is as fascinating and as riveting in person as it is hearing it over the airwaves. If you're interested, we'll give you more details on how you can get a hold of Debbie Papadakis. Perhaps you'd like to undergo some sort of a regression yourself. Right now, George is experiencing a past life, apparently. He's in Chicago, standing at a bar.
Terrible singer.
He's kind of troubled by the fact that, or perplexed. Everyone around him is drinking, but not him. Let's listen in.
Just tell us, George, what do you see there now?
Well, everybody's drinking and beer is sliding on the bar, and somebody's singing, and he is terrible. He must be drunk, because no one sings that poorly if they're not drunk. And everybody seems to enjoy him, and I'm not.
And tell me, how old are you?
Oh, 19.
And what's your occupation?
I don't know. Let me think.
What
am I here for? I think I was running an errand.
What year is it?
Probably.
Just don't guess. 1, 2, 3. What's your occupation?
Runner.
Runner.
I'm running for something. It may be a newspaper. I don't.
Okay, I'm going to count from 1 to 3. You will see a very clear picture of the whole events. Tell us, what's the name of the newspaper?
Tribune.
Tribune. You taking notes?
Yes.
And
Tribune.
yes, and tell us, what is the date?
1910.
1910.
1910. The Chicago Tribune. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very big, bold face. I guess it's on the bar, or maybe I brought it. I don't know.
Just take a couple of deep breaths. Just allow yourself to relax.
I am sensing fear.
Fear. And what's the fear about? If you were to know, what is it? Just look around.
I'm guessing I shouldn't be there.
And I shouldn't be there because?
Because that's not where I was sent to go.
And you went there in order to find what?
I guess curiosity.
Curiosity.
I heard the singing and the laughing, and it was 2 steps off the street, and I was inside.
I want you to go inside right now. Become that person. Just imagine yourself. You are there right now. Mm. And what are you feeling?
I'm afraid.
I'm afraid. I'm afraid from. Is it a person I'm afraid from, or what's going to happen to you?
It has to do with time.
Time.
I'm over my time allowed to do a chore.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm going to be fired or replaced or fired.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm going to count from 1 to 3. At 3, you will be at a further time, maybe days, maybe months, maybe years later, and you know exactly what has happened. 1, 2, 3. Tell us the details about this.
Well, I'm dressed very well. I'm looking pretty spiffy.
And what's your name?
Fred.
Fred, what's the last name?
Fred. Rinker? Wrangler. Rinker. Fred Rinker.
How do you spell your name?
Rinker.
And how old are you now when you're looking at
26, 27.
that? Do you have a family?
No.
So what is your job? What kind of work do you do?
I'm a reporter.
Reporter.
I report on the theater. Chicago had what they called a black belt, mm-hmm. where a lot of very good entertainers performed, and they were just starting to get white audiences, and I was to cover that.
Okay.
And to describe it to the readers.
Do you have this information from this current life, or is something you see now?
Oh no, it's from before. It's from before, because they're dirty places, and they smell of beer and smoke.
Okay, can you smell it right now?
Yes.
And what is the lesson are you learning from this? How is this information is going to help you in this current life, your current life?
How can I apply it?
Yes.
I don't know.
Take a deep breath.
I must have been pretty good writer, mm-hmm. because I had a big job. I had my own space on page 3, and I could fill it with pretty much anything I wanted, so long as I wrote about the music in that sort of arc through southern Chicago. I see it vividly.
What newspaper?
And I could walk from one raggedy place to another.
Thank you. Richard has a question for you. What's your question, Richard?
What newspaper are you writing for, Fred?
What newspaper are you writing?
The Tribune, the Chicago Tribune, the one I was fired from. Yeah.
Do you remember any specific article that you wrote that was more important than other? Or
I was fascinated by the intermingling of the white and the black musicians.
Thank you. Go back and become that. Instead of going, go inside and become that and be that person and experience the whole thing in the present tense.
Oh, in the present, I think I learned a great deal about music, which I enjoy.
Did he meet any...
Did you meet?
Did you meet, Fred, any famous black musicians from the era? Louis Armstrong or anyone like that?
No, I'd have recognized Louis Armstrong. These were people who came up the Mississippi. I guess it's cliche, but from New Orleans and from Western Texas. And they brought it was ragtime music, and then it evolved when the black musicians got a hold of it. They made it more sophisticated, and then the white musicians who could play, they mingled, and so there were, I suppose, against popular custom, but they played in groups together, so there were black and white musicians, which I thought was so great. And that, I think if I learn anything, it's that music doesn't have color. It really doesn't.
How long did you write that column for the Chicago Tribune, Fred?
Who's asking that question?
Is Richard asking the question?
Richard.
Okay, I will ask the same. How long did you work for this paper?
4 years. I was 30 when I left it.
So...
I know that. I was 30 because I don't have any memories of anything beyond 30.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to go back. You're 30 years old. You're writing for this paper.
Yes.
And what's happening in your life? Tell us about your personal life. Are you married? Are you...
No,
yeah, no,
but I'm pursuing a very beautiful lady of color.
Uh-huh.
And, oh gee, she is being abused verbally by people because she's being seen with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrible. That is terrible.
Take a couple of deep breaths. You learned a lot from that life, isn't it?
Oh.
And he carried that in his current life.
Do I?
You carried, basically you're right. Anyway, I will go to that explanation.
Well, we can get into that after, but yes. We'll take another time out, and when we come back, we can continue to delve into the life of one Fred Rinker, a.k.a. George Jonescu. Debbie Papadakis in studio from the Hypno Healing Institute right here on the new AM 740 Zoomer Radio, The Conspiracy Show.
Loose lips sink ships, and sometimes corporations. Got something to say? Call Richard Serrett now at 416-360-0740 or toll free in Ontario 1-866-740-4740. Keeping an eye on the New World Order. This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett from Zoomer Radio, AM 740. To speak with Richard, call 416-360-0740 or toll free 1-866-740-4740.
All right, welcome back. Debbie Papadakis is bringing George out of his regression. Quite frankly, he got frightened. He was recounting how as Fred Rinker, a music critic for the Chicago Tribune, back in the, I'm guessing, 1920s, maybe earlier, he gained an appreciation for the musical talents of some of the black musicians coming up from the Mississippi Delta. Keeping in mind he was a white music critic in Chicago, he began dating a black woman, a beautiful black woman, who was then subjected to racial taunts. And he blames himself, it sounds like, because he was involved with her. He's indicated he doesn't want to go any further. He's frightened. Debbie's bringing him out of this right now. Let's listen in.
Another life, another time.
I'm reading.
I'm
it's
reading.
So quiet, and it's...
I moved him to
everybody's reading. It's like we're in a library or at a university. And we're reading couplets. I think they're Shakespearean couplets. And I hated those. I thought they were so silly.
What is the place, the city?
London. It's London. I know it's London.
I know it's London. And what's your name there, please?
Jan.
And the last name?
Oh, I don't... help me. Jan.
I'm going to count from 1 to 3. You will know exactly your last name. 1, 2, 3.
Friedman.
And how old are you there?
I'm about 35.
Uh-huh.
What year is it, Debbie, in London?
What year is it?
It's 1860.
And what is your occupation?
I think I'm a gentleman.
I'm a gentleman.
So I have inherited money. I don't recall working.
Mm-hmm.
No, I am sure I didn't work. I inherited a great deal of money. Mm-hmm. Thousands of pounds.
Mm-hmm. And how is your life? What are you learning in that life?
Actually, I love to read. Mm-hmm. And my friends are also people who enjoy reading. And then we sit for hours and we discuss what we've read. And there's no women there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no women. Oh, it's a men's club.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a men's club. Oh, I think it could improve if they allowed women. I'm smoking a pipe.
What are you learning from that life?
I think a life of leisure has no real value.
Uh-huh.
Truly, I obviously don't function. I don't produce anything.
Does he have...
I have no...
Does Jan or Jan Friedman have a coat of arms for his family?
Do you have a coat of arms?
Of course, we all have a coat of arms.
What does it look like?
3 stags, a small crown, and some thistles.
I'm going to ask you to remember that. I want to ask you to remember that. Put it in a special place within you to remember that coat of
it's not very...
Coat of arms, yes.
Coat of arms. And later on, when you come out of the state, you will be able to make the picture of it so you can go and find...
Oh.
Later on, you can just...
3 stags, a very small crown, and the thistles, which it must be from Scotland.
How did the Friedman family come to London?
How did the Friedman family come to London?
I don't recall us ever being anywhere but London.
How about your relatives? Anybody else with...
the relatives were...
are?
Traveling teachers, I believe. Traveling teachers, yes, because they came from university in Bucharest. Yes, that was my mother. Where's my father? I think my father was a bit of a scamp. I think he was kind of a shady character.
Mm-hmm.
What was his name? What was your father's name?
What was your father's name?
Frederick.
Frederick.
I thought I had his name. I thought I had his name. Because my name was Jan Frederick. Jan Frederick Friedman. Yes, I had his name. I was Frederick, Jan Frederick Friedman. And yeah, I think my father was just close to being against the law. But he had finery, and he left me with a great deal of money.
Mm-hmm.
A great deal of money, thousands and thousands of pounds.
How about your mother?
Oh, she was beautiful, and she was a teacher.
So your mother is a beautiful, she's a teacher.
Yes.
And tell us her name, please.
I'm finding it difficult. How does one ever remember their mother?
Take a deep breath. I'm going to count from
Starts
1 to 3.
with M.
1, 2, 3. What was
Margaret.
It? Margaret. And
Margarita.
how about the place where you stay, your house? Do you know?
Oh, it's a very large in London. It has 7 or 8 rooms, and the guys like to gather there. I guess when we're being foolish, and we go to an amusement, and then we come back and have some drinks and food. And I have a man who looks after me, and I guess he's a butler because he has things ready for us, and snacks or cold cuts and cold meat from the turkey or the chicken or
Take a deep
some
breath.
fowl.
What's the name of your butler?
Oh my! I'm thinking Ephraim, but. Yes, his name was Ephraim. He was very kind and always meticulously dressed.
Mm-hmm.
Ephraim. And I think he used to nip from the bottle.
And tell me
Yes.
about later on in life. Just later on in life, going to come from 1 to 3, you'll go much later in life, in the same particular life. And describe whatever has happened to you, 1, 2, 3, to see yourself a much older person.
Yes, in fact, it's nearing the turn of the century.
How does his life wrap up? How does it end? No? Okay.
No, it's not. It's 1870, 1871,
Mm-hmm.
because I read a daily sheet that comes from a printing press, and it's 1871.
Mm-hmm.
What is happening in London in 1871?
What's happening? Any news happening?
Yeah, we really don't get to understand what's in the streets, but there are rumblings, and some of my contemporaries are concerned for their shops, and because they think that, pardon me, the rabble is what they used. The rabble are becoming more prevalent in London. Yes, they're afraid of the rabble. I don't know why.
Were there riots?
I don't know why. Why would there be?
Are there any riots around?
Scuffles for food, but I never observed those. Ephraim would tell me. I think he protected me a lot because I'm sure he didn't tell me everything in the street. But there are people scuffling for food. Yes, some people were starving,
Mm-hmm.
and I had everything.
What did he do about it?
Did you do anything about that?
No, I was quite content to stay in my apartments and enjoy the company of friends and tea and eat whenever I wanted and whatever I wanted, pretty much.
Was there a woman?
Did you have a lady at that time?
Oh, yes, a number of them. Some of them were not exactly ladies of high society, if I may say that. They were working ladies. Working indeed. They smelled bad.
And this time I'm going to ask you to go to another time that you were a female. Another life, another time, another situation, another place. And there are different learnings happen there. I'm going to count from 1 to 3. You will be there. 1, 2, 3. Tell us what's going on.
People in sandals and long, dirty coats. We're going behind camels. Ugh. They smell.
Mm-hmm. What place is that?
I don't know. The smell of urine and spices, and I'm filthy. I guess I'm working in some food processing area.
Describe.
I smell terrible.
Describe yourself. How do you look?
Oh, I'm dirty and tall and skinny. Very skinny, as though maybe I'm hungry. I am hungry.
Interesting.
There are thousands of people just like me.
And what place is that? 1, 2, 3.
It's in desert country. It is. You know, you might see a tree that you say, well, I will eat the leaf and get some nourishment, but there are not even any trees to see. Oh, it's terrible and stink and smell, and I'm dirty and I smell.
What is her name?
What's your name?
I was asked that, and I got whipped because I didn't know. I don't know. I don't know.
How does people calling you?
Basically by striking me with a prod or a whip. And I don't remember ever my name being called. Oh, that was horrible life. That was horrible life.
I'm going to take him out of this.
All right, and we'll go into a break. Okay. Maybe when we can bring him back and we can discuss what happened.
Take some lessons. Take some lessons from all this life, specifically for this one. There are some lessons from this to learn. Just take the lessons.
All right, we're bringing George back. On the other side, we'll talk to George Jonescu about 3 or 4 past lives that we all witnessed together. Debbie Papadakis in studio from the Hypno Healing Institute. My name is Richard Serrett. Stay with us.
The truth is not out there. It's right here. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett from Zoomer Radio, AM 740. Corporations, governments, and sometimes entire civilizations, what goes up must come down. And it lands on The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett from Zoomer Radio, AM 740.
We are back, and George Jonescu is just come to. How do you feel, George?
I feel wonderful, relaxed, and I've been on some kind of a journey.
I'll say. I have to tell you, I have witnessed, I would say now, a half dozen regressions, maybe more, maybe 8. The detail that came from you was absolutely astounding. Detail? I've never seen someone go from one life to another
what
so quickly.
Tell me, please. I want to enjoy this too.
Let me ask you, first of all, the interesting thing, when you came to, off the air, just before we came back from the break, yes, you said, wow, I smell terrible. Do you remember that at all?
Yes, I stunk. All I remember is I was hardly a person, but I smelled. I mean, my body smelled. And that bothers me. I guess smell is such a strong element.
The smell and the colors are the stronger anchors we have in our...
But you just rid me of that smell.
Okay, you get, because you have the ability to do so. And if there's anything else, I'm going to work with you to clear it and to have you back totally in the normal state. But you can ask him any questions. I'm not sure what questions to
Well,
ask.
first of all, let me ask you, Debbie. I mean,
Yes.
he just whipped through 4 different incarnations.
No way.
Yes.
Do you recall your life as Randolph, a playwright in Austria in the
Yes.
18th century?
That I do recall because I think Debbie took me there first.
Yes. Yes. And
What did I do?
well, you were in the midst of writing a play called Crowning Glory.
Crowning Glory.
And while all this is going on, I'm sort of typing on the internet, furiously, trying to find details and so forth, and I'm still working on that. But can we mention, I mean, he was under some distress during this lifetime. Can we talk about that, Debbie?
Yeah, you can do it. There was some war was happening, and looked to me like George experienced this war, and later in his life, he wrote the play about this war.
Oh.
And then he directed it, and they did this play, and he said that book exists still today, and I'm pretty sure that
Where does it exist?
You mentioned, well, you were in Vienna.
In Vienna?
Writing this play. It was being performed in this very ornate theater. Of course, Vienna would be filled with such buildings. You were very perturbed by somebody of royal lineage who was sitting in sort of the VIP box, who was very arrogant.
Yes.
You couldn't stand the sight of this person. Does that sound familiar?
I have a vision of that, Richard. I hate it. I don't hate, but I hated this man. Whoever he was, I know that. I felt that, and I feel it now.
There was one other person.
He made me feel impotent, and I think that's why I hated him, because somehow I relate. Debbie, do you remember a child? Did I say something?
You said something about child. But I would like to ask the question, how is this person that you hate, the scenario, the feelings, the thoughts, the emotions, what kind of relation does it have in this current life? How does it affect you in this current life? Can you see any connection between this? Because we do have connections from something happened in the past. We are still responding, reacting, or acting according to that connection. And I would like at some point to hypnotize George and clear all that past so he can have a lot more peacefulness in his life. Because this was short for me.
Where did my angst come from, Richard?
You mentioned this small child, and we weren't able to really pinpoint where you were seeing this child, but you were haunted by this child. You kept saying, he's looking right through me, and I'm sorry I couldn't help you. Do you remember that?
Yes. Well, I remember the feeling. I don't know the words, but I remember the terrible sadness and the impotence. I couldn't help him, and I desperately wanted to help him.
How do you feel today in this current life? Are you trying to help situations like that? Are you the kind of person that you go out of your way to help situations? Maybe you give a voice to the people who have no voice. Maybe in a different situations, people who have experienced something in the past, they suffer from some situation in this current life. They will.
You mean it affects what I do now,
Yes,
Deb?
yes. I know that.
Well, I've gotten to know George a little bit over the last 2.5 years, and George and I talk off the air about your life, George. And I mean, that's totally who you are. You're someone who stands up for the little guy.
That's right.
I mean, that's part of your past. I mean, you talked to me about that.
When you said there's this one person, I called him pompous. So
that was the royal, the person in the royal box.
I think the fact that he had the ability to stop whatever was going on, but chose not to, and I equate that with today. And I'm a political freak, so I'm watching the conservative or the Republican nomination race, And I feel for Mr. Obama because he is trying to do a job and they're not going to let him. It's like I was impotent. I couldn't help the child, and I feel that Mr. Obama is the same way. He wants to help, and they won't let him because of the partisan politics.
Okay, but that's politics. But he's bringing, what George is doing is bringing the feelings from the past.
Yes.
And he relates them today in a certain situation. That could be with Obama, could be with somebody else, could be a different situation.
Right,
if we had a situation outside, let's say, I don't know, somebody couldn't help themselves, probably George will run to help.
Were there
Absolutely,
any beautiful
absolutely.
women in my
yes.
regression?
Absolutely.
Really?
Which brings us to the second incarnation. You've suddenly found yourself in a bar in Chicago, circa 1910. A great deal of drinking going on, yet you weren't drinking because you didn't drink.
That's right.
And there was someone singing there who was horrible, but everyone seemed to be enjoying the singer, but you.
That may have been Frank Sinatra.
1910. And then Debbie took you a little further ahead in your life, and your name was Fred Rinker, as far as we can tell.
Fred Rinker?
Fred Rinker. You later
Wasn't he one of the trio with Bing Crosby and in the Paul Whiteman band?
You're asking me? You're the 62
Rinker.
years running on the air.
There.
Well,
I have no idea.
I'm desperately trying to find out information because you said that you, Fred Rinker, later became sort of a theatrical critic for the Chicago Tribune. You had a column on page 3, and you would sort of cover...
I had a column on page 3 in the Tribune.
The details, George, were absolutely incredible.
My goodness.
You even described opposite your byline was kind of a sketch of what you looked like.
Oh,
and you covered a lot of the black musical acts coming up from the Mississippi Delta. Of course, that's where they came. A lot of them from up into Chicago.
But I would know that from now. You see, that's part of my.
True.
What was I doing back? Was I a musician?
No, you were a reviewer. You were writing, and so you were interviewing a lot of and going to see a lot of black musicians.
Yeah.
You fell in love with a black woman.
Yeah.
And this again caused a great deal of anxiety because she became, as a result of your relationship, or so you figured, she became the subject of a lot of racial taunting.
Yes.
And you felt terrible about that, and you wanted to get out of that life. You wanted Debbie to take you someplace else. You said,
"What did I say, Deb?"
I don't remember. I think Richard will remember better than I do.
Was she murdered?
We don't know, but it didn't sound good because you said, "Take me away from here."
Yeah.
When you were,
I'm sorry.
Take me away from here.
She died, and then we took him away because I didn't want all the drama in here. Normally in my office, I will have to deal with it. I will clear it. We'll get the lessons. We send the love, and there is.
Well, was it emotional or was it just sort of?
No, you
passé?
were emotional. You sounded distraught.
Yes,
I would say
in some places.
She was my black girlfriend.
Yes, she was being taunted verbally. And you figured because she was dating
with me, a white person.
Yes.
Oh darn!
And you felt terrible about that.
Well, I feel terrible just hearing it.
You felt, I would say you felt responsible.
Awful.
So there's kind of a theme emerging here, isn't there?
Thank you, because when I went back in the number of my past lives, I have the same theme that my life is today.
But what's my theme, Deb?
Well, your theme. What is his theme? Tell him.
He feels
women.
No, you feel a tremendous deal of responsibility for other people. I think you're someone who. I know this about your present life. You're someone who wants to help the underdog, those that are less fortunate,
and justice.
Yeah, justice. Absolutely, justice.
Justice.
You have
I am
a
all about
tremendous sense
justice
of
myself.
justice. Yeah.
I'm in every past life I went, I'm trying to help people to have the right to honor them. This is exactly what I'm doing today too. It's the same idea.
What's interesting is
That's scary.
That
it's not scary.
The next life actually predates those others.
I had another one.
We went back to 1860, London, and you were kind of a bon vivant
Oh, yeah.
by the name of
Is that right?
Jan Friedman. Or Jan, maybe Jan, but Jan Friedman.
Oh.
Your father was a bit of a scoundrel, just
I can believe that.
just kind of skirting the law, if you will. You weren't sure about what he did for a living, but he left you a great deal of money.
Yeah.
As a result, you were a man of leisure.
Oh.
You would go off gallivanting
That's
with your...
my dream. Be a man of leisure.
But you said what was the lesson in that? I asked him, and he said, this kind of life does not have any value or something.
Yes, you spend a great deal of time reading, going out with your friends, coming back. You had a butler, but the interesting thing was in London at this time there was a bit of the people were flooding into London in the 1870s. At one time,
it was the Industrial Revolution.
Yes, something like 1 in 5 people in Great Britain lived in London,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
There was some civil unrest. People were scrabbling around for food. And you didn't really give it much of a passing thought, but there was I could sense you felt very guilty about that. So it's interesting. I mean, if we understand,
I had no equation with the working people.
Not in that life. So maybe that's something that started to develop as a result of that life. What do you think, Deb?
I'm not exactly sure. If we have to, for me to analyze it there, I have to go back and see the previous life. What were the lessons, and the next one, and the next one, and then you see the transformation is happening.
Right.
Like for example, when we took him the last one, where he was a lady and he was smelling. That was before.
I was a lady.
The last incarnation, it sounded like you were some sort of a slave girl. You were being whipped. You were in the desert.
Are you serious?
You were in the desert. You didn't know your name. You said, someone asked me that, and I didn't know the answer, and they whipped me. You didn't know your name, but you were a female.
You were smelling, and that's when you came after. After that, I brought you out, and you say, I'm still smelling.
Yeah.
You were amidst some camels, so you were in a desert, presumably, I don't know, the Middle East, India. And you were, it sounded like...
It would have to be, in the desert, it would have to be an Arab country, perhaps.
You sounded like you were the low rung on the ladder in terms of the social strata, yeah.
Wow. Now, in London, I was a bon vivant.
Yes.
And in the previous life, I was a slave.
Yes.
It's very common to have people go from being the high level to the lower levels.
Really?
Because if we take this in a more spiritual level, we experience this. The thing is, we experience these different lives to learn lessons in order to advance our soul level, our
right.
So you're learning different things that are to the time you're a slave, and you're learning different things when you're.
What can you learn as a slave?
Oh, as a slave, you learn a lot more than you learn when you have all the money in the world and you.
Well, you know how to survive, I guess.
Well, from beau vivant to slave, to paraphrase Joni Mitchell, you've looked at life from both sides now.
Well done, Richard.
Let's take a time out. When we come back, are you good? How are you feeling, George?
I'm feeling great.
You want to hang in and we'll maybe take some calls?
I would love it.
Terrific. Why don't we do that? David, take us out with some music, and we'll open up the phone lines. 416-360-0740. Ladies and gentlemen, I just witnessed one of the most remarkable things on live radio, the most remarkable past life regression I have ever witnessed, with our very own, the affable, the venerable, the indefatigable George Jonescu. I'd love to know what you think. 416-360-0740, and toll-free from Maine to Minnesota, Thunder Bay to the Carolinas, 866-740-4740.
Fasten your seatbelt and put your tray in the upright position. You're about to leave everything you know behind on The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett from Zoomer Radio, AM 740.
George Jonescu is feeling. You're exhausted, George. But how? I mean, are you? What's your state of mind? Are you?
I'm lucid. I really am. I'm more clear now than when I was on the air. I think the listeners would agree with that.
Do you have any? I asked you this off the air, but let me ask you on the air. When you're experiencing these past lives, or whatever they are, I mean, is it like a movie playing in your head, or are you seeing snapshots, or is it just sort of smells, sounds, pictures? What is it?
when Debbie directs me, I see these things as a movie because I can see detail, and I think I balked at some of them. I don't know, but she asked me some questions or led me someplace I felt I didn't want to go.
Yes,
and I think you sort of sensed that, because you didn't push me.
No, I
into
didn't
it.
push you, no.
Is that the way you usually practice that?
Well, I've never pushed anybody, never. But here we had George going in and out a little bit.
Yes.
Normally, I help people all the way down.
Yes.
But here, it's a radio program. I'm not sure where to go. You know, it's not the proper sitting.
No.
So I had to be, and he part of himself was still watching himself.
Yeah, he was a little apprehensive.
Because you can be, you can have a true regression or you can have a pseudo regression. Pseudo is when you're watching yourself, true regression when you're in it. Now, George was 50-50. He was going in and then he was going out.
I think
so
that's right.
If the situation was uncomfortable, he was watching it. To me, that's a good state also, but I also gave some indication in the beginning for him to do that because it's when the situation is scary, you don't want to feel
But how do you sense, Deb, that I was obviously frightened? I don't remember being frightened, but Richard said and you said.
Yeah.
So how do you know?
How do I know?
Or do
First
I
of all,
verbalize it?
You verbalized it also. Your facial muscles will tell us that. And also your language, the tone of voice.
Yes.
It
was unmistakable.
And your hand was shaking. His hand, did you see how his hand was shaking?
It was very interesting because your body was totally relaxed. Totally relaxed. And yet your facial expression, your face tensed up. There was a strain in your voice, and your head was sort of moving from side to side. You did not want to be where you were, and Debbie was very protective of you. When she sensed that you were feeling some discomfort, she would intervene and pull you out of that life and move you ahead in time to a happier place or whatever.
In normal situation, though, in my office, if we face a little bit of uncomfortable feeling, we resolve that. We go in and sometimes reframe it, see it from a different perspective. And if you totally resolve that, then that particular situation will not have any effect in your life. The reason
no
people
effect
come
on
to,
my life?
In your life. The reason people come to do this work is because they want a healing. They want to feel better.
Yeah, that's an important point.
If I clear that fear that is in the past, then in this current life you will not have any discomfort. You won't have the fear. So in this situation, because of the setting we have, I was again restrictive in some level to work all the way.
Right.
And I'm going to have George come to my office and clear 100% everything.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense, George, of how? Now that we've described those past lives that you just experienced, and now maybe you have some memories of those, do you have any idea how those previous lives are impacting on your life today?
Oh, I don't know, because I'm hearing what I went through from you and from Debbie, so I don't even recall feelings. The one thing I recall, Richard, is smell.
That's one of the most evocative of all senses.
Unpleasant smell.
Yeah.
But earlier he was recalling feelings. Now is time passing. The thing is what I would like to say is when you do past life regression, normally sometimes takes weeks and months the body resolving stuff, because now we have a different frame of pictures from the past.
Well, you tell me, Debbie, what do you think, based on what you've heard from George, what do you think, how do those past lives are impacting him now? Do you have any sense of that?
It's affecting him in a way that he's responding to situation. For example, about Obama, he mentions this type of situation. He lives, and I don't know very well, George, but I think he lives his life for the right, for justice, for supporting people that are not supported. So he has all that by releasing. And what's happening in our lives right now, sometimes we think we're helping by being very strong about this type of situations, but in his core self, that's his karma. He is to help people. But if you get rid of that anxiety about it or the force about it, instead of going with force, you go with power, then you make more difference in the world.
Now, I recall you asking me to give love to these horrible people.
I know, but love is the healer of all. Those horrible people in my world.
I'm mid-European. We hold grudges.
No,
we hold grudges forever.
Okay. My rule of work is, and that is my whole work. I don't care what's happened to the other person. I may work for days, for hours, or whatever I work with a person. In the end of the line, we need, I don't care how horrible the situation is, we need to find love for that person.
That's spiritual.
Well, listen, the more somebody's young, this is the rule of my thinking and my work. The more somebody's horrible, yelling, screaming, hitting, doing all these things, the more...
Sounds like marriage, Deb.
No, it doesn't, please. I'm married for 30 years, 29.
But are you
But so the more the more loud you yelling and screaming and creating trouble, the more you say, please love me because I feel unlovable.
Oh, my.
So
are you, I mean, do you get angry when you see injustices?
Yes.
Are you an angry person, George?
Okay.
I'm angry because I'm impotent. I find I can't do anything, and I'm constantly fighting systems.
Okay.
I think we all are, though.
Right.
Okay,
That's
we
not
all
just
are.
me.
But I'm going to tell you something, George. If we fight systems without anger, we're going to have more results.
If we fight systems without anger,
Without
we'll have more results,
meaning
more positive results.
more important, because meaning if I get the minute my anger comes up, my intelligence goes down. So if I will still see the injustice. I will still see it. I will do something about it. I will go and try to resolve it instead of going with anger. The minute I bring my anger, from the other
All
side.
Let's grab a quick call here. Aseb, is it Aseb in Scarborough? Welcome to AM 740, The Conspiracy Show. Hello, Aseb.
It's Asib.
Asib, my apologies.
That's okay. I was wondering how many lifetimes can a person experience?
Many. We had people have gone hundreds and more.
Hundreds, wow. And also, what's the hypnosis process? How did you hypnotize George?
How to hypnotize George? I hypnotize many ways. I have classes that I teach people how to hypnotize.
Give us a number, Deb.
So it's a process to learn. We have classes coming up in March. If anybody wants to learn how to hypnotize, please call our office at 416-760-8996, and I will take you through, and you become you learn how to hypnotize. It's a process. It's hypnosis is an art and a science at the same time. So you learn the science and then you develop the art part of it.
Okay.
Asib, what did you? I'm guessing that you heard George Jonescu's Regression. What did you make of that?
It was very interesting. Actually, this is my first night listening to your show.
So you're going to be listening all the time.
Well,
now.
welcome aboard.
I think so. Asib, you know, it's time is altogether a lie. I thought I was under for about 10 minutes, and Richard said I was under for the better part of an hour.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Can I also say something? And some people who want to experience hypnosis, I have a workshop coming up this Sunday the 5th. From 2 o'clock to about 4:45. We were supposed to do till 5, but we're going to cut it 4:45 because the Super Bowl game or whatever. So we need to cut a few minutes. Anyways, I'm going to take people, and that is only about relationships. It's not about past life. Past life we're going to have in 2 months. So people who come, they will understand all about relationships. Then I will hypnotize somebody, help them to clear their relationship issues, and then I'm going to hypnotize the whole group. If anybody's interested, go to my hypnohealing.com, hypno-healing.com, which is www.hypno-healing.com, and you can register there. We only have maybe 10 or 12 spots left. If everybody is interested.
Let me say this. I trust Debbie implicitly.
Thank you.
Yes.
Absolutely. I if you asked me to recommend, I would find that the easiest thing to do.
Yes, you're in good hands, for sure. Listen, we'll take another time out. We'll come back, take a few more calls.
All right.
George Jonescu from Big Band Sunday Night. Deb Papadakis from Hypno Healing Institute here in Toronto. I've linked up to her website, as well at richardsarrett.com. So just go to richardsarrett.com, and under guests, you'll see Debbie's name. Just click on that. That'll take you right to the website. Again, the phone number, if you want to register for her workshop or just book a session and discover who you were, 416-760-8996. Back with more of The Conspiracy Show. Stay with us. Nelson Thal is coming up shortly.
Collective reference is better than passive deference. They say be careful what you wish for, but that won't stop us wanting more. What they think they have concealed is someday gonna be revealed. Don't be afraid to seek and find it. So much better than being blind. What they think they have concealed is someday gonna be revealed. Don't be afraid to seek and find it. So much better than being blind. There's nothing concealed that won't be revealed. Grain of truth, plain proof.
There you go. That was Who Stole the Cookies and Nothing Concealed. Thanks to the Nick and the boys, Tony and Jamie and Kelly from Who Stole the Cookies for putting that song together. Of course, inspired by my sign-off every night from Matthew 6:23, I believe it is. In any event, just a few moments remain. George Jonescu, being a real soldier and extending his shift, on-air shift late into the night here. Of course, the host of Big Band Sunday Night right here on the new AM 740 Zoomer Radio, and we just witnessed a remarkable series of regressions under the guidance of Deb Papadakis from the Hypno Healing Institute. Just a recap, George, you were, first of all, you were an Austrian playwright in the mid-18th century in Vienna, who wrote a play called Crowning Glory.
Crowning Glory?
And then you were in Chicago, sort of turn of the century, 1910, 1920, in there somewhere. You were a music critic for the Chicago Tribune.
Good paper.
Very good paper, yes. And you had a nice column there for about 4 years in sometime in that period, writing reviews, musical reviews, theatrical reviews, and so forth. From there, we went to London in the 1860s, and you were a bit of a bon vivant, boulevardier, playboy, if you will, by the name of Jan Friedman, who had been left a great deal of money by your father, who was a bit of a scoundrel by all accounts, and
I'm enjoying this.
And then from there, you were an impoverished slave girl somewhere in the sand dunes. We're not sure, the Middle East, India.
Wow,
that was a kind of a tragic life. But well, you took us around the world in an hour, and you looked at life from just about every conceivable angle.
Wow.
And Debbie Papadakis, again, a remarkable. I mean, I can't. I don't expect you to to compare this one to others. But were you as surprised as I was, or no? You've seen this.
This I see it all the time. It's every day in my work. I take them from one to the other. We resolve something, go to another. I can go to 20 and it was saying.
Deb, you're going to send me a complete script of what I said.
Well, we'll send you the show, and you can listen back.
Oh, thank you. I'd love that.
Yeah, and some people who would like to be hypnotized, if you sign up with my newsletter, which is at www.hypno-healing.com, you will receive an email with a link, and that you can download a whole CD for people who have sleeping problems, and you will be sleeping incredibly beautiful.
I got you beat, Deb.
And then,
they listen to my program.
Even if you don't have a sleeping problem, you can listen to it and you can hypnotize yourself with it.
Well, that's the whole point. It's not just to see who you were in a previous life. It's that you come to some sort of healing, that you can learn something from your past life, and learn how it's impacting in your present life. And through Deb's help, you'll resolve that, right?
Yes.
In other words, this is sort of your this emotional karma that you've been carrying around from one life to the next, to the next, to the next, and now it's impacting you in some way.
But also we have traumas from our childhood. We also have traumas from our genealogical times, from our parents and their parents and their parents. It's not only the blood connection that we have, we also have the memories and the emotions that come in from one parent to the other to the other. So if we go back, when I work, I actually incorporate all together. I may take you for one situation to past life, another issue to your genealogical time, and the other time you may go to the womb. When you are in the womb, if your parents are fighting or I don't know, having some problems, the child totally knows exactly what's happening. I do wanted to have the time to write a book about this, because we're going to resolve a lot of issues in life if we become calmer, nicer, take care of our babies when they're in the womb, because a lot of imprint is happening there also till about 5-6 years old.
Sure.
So when I work, I take people all those times.
So regression doesn't have to be to a previous life. It could be George when you were 3 years old or something like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
I've been very upfront with you, Debbie. You know that I have I'm somewhat skeptical of past lives. It doesn't square with my particular faith. However, what I'm wondering is if what George is experiencing, what others are experiencing, is not necessarily a past life, but perhaps the memories of ancestors encoded in our DNA. For example, now Jonescu is a Romanian name.
Yes.
You were part of Romania was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Perhaps you were this Randolph, this playwright, was an ancestor of yours. So that memory is in your DNA, and that's what you're tapping into. What do you think of that?
That's possible.
It's possibility. Everything is possible. For me, I know last time you asked me about the religion and how can, if my religion accepts that. My answer to that, Richard, is what religion or institution or country or system or any will oppose something when I'm taking people to help them to become better parents, to become better people, to heal themselves, to get rid of anger, to get rid of negative situation, children to be able to write their tests better, to have a better life, to improve their lives. So we go back and we resolve all these issues, and having people to live a better life, to clear the relationship issues, because in order to clear any relationship issues, you have to clear your own issues. To do that, we have to go back and resolve all the unresolved issues that is inside of us. So when somebody says to me, is this is acceptable? Well, I'm sorry, I totally believe in this, and I've seen thousands of cases. People have improved their lives tremendously, and this is why I do this work, and I'm very, should I say, fanatic about it?
Well, that's an interesting point. In other words, even if these memories aren't real, they've been conjured up by the mind. To me, that's equally as fascinating. That the human mind is capable of it.
I'm guessing.
But the point is, if you're able to heal and overcome present-day issues by going through this process, it doesn't matter if it's real. It works.
It works.
Yes, I think that's the bottom line.
It works. And the thing is it real or not real? My story, my theory to this is, if I teach for 10 minutes, whatever time, 10 people a lesson, and I ask those people to repeat back what I taught them, 10 of them, they will give me a different story. So what is the true story that I taught? They're giving me their own interpretation. Truth is a personal
thing.
Their own interpretation. They all of them going to say, you talked about this particular thing, but everyone's going to give me different interpretation of that story. I believe the same thing is happening in our minds. Is it 100% sure, that story with the details? I'm not sure. I personally don't even think it's 100% sure. But I personally believe there is the core belief of it is there, because quite often when I work with people and I take them back, we clear that, all of a sudden they have no anger anymore. And can you imagine having life without anger? Because again, I mentioned a few minutes ago, the minute the negative emotions goes up, the intelligence goes down. We react in life. We don't act. In order to go with force, we need to go with power. And we all have the ability, the power inside of us that is God-given to us. This is our birthright, to carry our lives with this strength and power and kindness and love and everything else. But what do? We are implanted by all kinds of negativity, by our society, by our parents, by whatever. And those people, they did the best they knew how. They were the greatest hypnotists in the world, our parents. So they, as a child, you're telling a child, and because you're afraid, you're trying to protect them, you limit them in their own world, and then they grow up and they carry fear, and that fear affects them in their life. So really, if we find our own balance, our own equilibrium, our own power, and we can do that through hypnosis. I totally believe. I've been doing this work for a very long time. And it's a very fast work. It takes 5-6 sessions usually with people to help them out in every area in their lives. And then I see them maybe once a year, or I do work over the phone, a lot of work over the phone. So we can. It's not how much hypnotized you are, but how you accept the.
Well, George is obviously very open-minded and accepting of this, because I have never seen anyone go under as easily, in my limited experience, go under as easily as you did, and was able to go from one life to the next and produce such detail.
That astounds me, Richard. I think it's trust. I think I trust Debbie so much that it was easy for her to put me under.
Let's take one very quick call, and then we'll take a time out and usher Nelson Thal, media scientist, in here to talk about Michael Jackson's new life in Bahrain and other things. Arthur is in Toronto. Arthur, go ahead. Welcome.
Hi. I believe everything the guest said. For instance, Jesus, when he was on earth, he performed many miracles, walked on water and whatever, but all to direct people's attention to the Bible. The Bible says Satan is the ruler of this world. He's going to deceive, use any means to distract people from looking into the Bible's message.
All right, Arthur. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We'll delve into some of the details here. Hopefully I can, let's find out. Was there a Fred Rinker writing for the Chicago Tribune?
Well, I'm going to look that up when I get home.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't Rinker, maybe it was Krinker, maybe that's the thing. It gets kind of difficult, because the names might not be exactly right. But you know what? Even if the details aren't right, the journey that we just experienced was absolutely mind-blowing.
Well, I'll experience it when you send me the CD.
And listen, you're such a good sport, and I really appreciate
Well, Richard, I trusted you implicitly as I trusted Deb.